Today we are working on 9-7, adding fractions with unlike denominators. So I want you to title your page in your spiral on a new page. I want you to title it this. You're going to be working with problems that could look like this: 1/4 plus 2/3. And see, they have unlike denominators. I'm going to show you how to make them alike, and so we can add them easier. So on your first page, I would like you to write this problem exactly how I wrote it. I would like you to write 1/2 plus 2/9. Now I'm going to write it over here just for a second to show you something. You don't need to write it like this. But when you have different denominators, you cannot add straight across. You can't even add these. You have to find a common denominator first before you even move on. So my first step is to find a common denominator, is to find a common denominator with 2 and 9. Those are both of my denominators. I need to find a common one. Well, we have learned that first we ask ourselves, does 2 go into 9 evenly? No, so we can't use 9. So we would do 2 times 9. Well, when we do 2 times 9, we get 18. So 18 will be our common denominator. So the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to switch both of your denominators over to 18. So I have 18, and I have to change the tops too. But we found our common denominator, we know it's 18. So now it's a little tricky part, but not too much. You have to ask yourself, what did you do from 2 to get to 18? Well, what did you times 2 by to get 18? Over here, we times it by 9. So whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So 1 times 9 is what? 9. Okay, down here, you have to say 9 times what gave me 18? 9 times 2 gave me 18. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 2 times 2 is 4. So now I have 2 whole different fractions, but I have a common denominator. So now I'm going to go ahead and write this out like this. I'm going to say 9/18 plus 4/18. Now, the very cool thing about this is if you have a common denominator, you just add straight across. You have to keep your common denominator of 18. That doesn't change. Your bottom will never change when you're adding. But the top, you just add straight across. So 9 plus 4 is 13. And I cannot reduce this problem anymore. So my answer to 1/2 plus 2/9 is 13 over 18. We will try a couple more together. Okay, I would like you to also write this one down. 1/4 plus 7/10. And you can either write it like that, or you can write it like this. Whichever way is easier for you. But I want you to also write these steps down real quick, please. So I would like you to write down these steps real quick, just they may help some of you. So I put when adding. First, you have to find a common denominator. Second, we have to change the numerators, the top of the fraction. And then the third step is we just add straight across, but you have to keep that common denominator. So we're going to go ahead and work this problem, and I'll show you what steps we do as we do them. So step 1, it says find a common denominator. I have to find a common denominator of 4 and 10. So in order to do this, I can either write out my factors of 4 and write out my factors of 10, or I can times them together and get 40. So first I did 4 times 10 equals 40. So I'm going to change these denominators. And I'm going to change them to 40. All right, check. Step 2, we have to change the numerators. In order to change the numerators, we have to ask ourselves, how did we get from 10 to 40? What did we multiply by? Well, we multiplied 10 times 4 gave us 40. So I have to do that to the top. 7 times 4. And I get 28. All right, now we're done with that one, but we have to do it up here to the top problem. 4 times what gave me 40? 4 times 10. So whatever we do at the bottom, have to do to the top. 1 times 10. 1 times 10 is 10. Okay, do we have common denominators? Yes, we do. So, check, got it. And we changed the numerators. Our numerators are different. Now, we can rewrite our problem out, 10/40 plus 28/40. And my third step says add straight across, but keep your denominator. So I always keep my denominator, and then I add these straight across. When I add these straight across, I get 38. But there is a problem with this. What can happen to this problem? It can be simplified. So this is the first answer you get, but 38 over 40, it can be simplified. We know that both of these are even, so we can simplify it and divide both by 2. Or we could try to find a bigger number that goes into both of them to divide by. So let's try to find a bigger number. So if we list out our facts, we have 38 and we have 40. Excuse me, not list out our facts. We just need to see what goes into both of them evenly. So let's start with, we know 2 can. Can 3 go into 38 evenly? No. What about 4? Can 4 go into 38 evenly? 38 cannot go into 4 or 5 or 6 evenly, so let's just stick with the 2. 38 divided by 2 gives me 19. And 40 divided by 2 gives me 20. Can I break this down anymore? No, so our answer would be 19/20. If you have this as an answer and you know you can simplify, you must simplify to get the correct answer. For this one, I don't want you to write it down because I want to show you where some people go wrong. So in this case, 3 goes into 12. So we know 12 is our common denominator. So all we have to do is change this to 12 and leave this as 12. Okay? So since we left that as 12, we can leave the top. Okay, well down here, I have to say 3 times what gave me 12? Well, 3 times 4. So I have to do that to the top. 2 times 4 is 8. But sometimes people take what you timesed on the bottom, on this bottom problem, and they do it up here. You cannot do that up there. This is like a whole different problem. This is a whole different problem. All that you are trying to find together is their common denominator. So I would like you to try one on your own. Remember, if you get stuck, you need to go back and watch the video. Make sure you took proper notes and try your very best. So I want you to do this one on your own. 5/12 plus 1/8. Remember to look at the steps you wrote down. First, find the common denominator. Second, change the numerator. And third, add straight across, but keep your common denominator. I am not going to help you on this one at all. So I want you to go ahead and try it and put it in the quiz question, please, the answer that you get. Make sure it is simplified. So the answer you should have got was 13/24. Now, please listen, because a lot of people might have, to find your common denominator, did 12 times 8, which that would have given you 96. Well, if you would have gotten such a big number, you're probably going to have to reduce a lot. Did I have to reduce at all over here? No, I did not have to reduce my 13 over 24. So another way to find your common denominator is to list out your multiples of 8 and 12, find the least common denominator, and use that. If you use that, you do not have to reduce as much. It makes your life 10,000 times easier. Okay, now I would like you to write this one down. You will see some of these on your practice work. There's 3 different ones. Now, it looks like I have a common denominator of 9, but I do not, because this 6 cannot go into 9 evenly, so I can't change that to 9. So this is just like any other problem with finding common denominators when you're adding. You have got to just find a different common denominator. So what I'm going to do is, we can't times all 3 together. So let's list out the facts of 9 and 6. So you go ahead and do that. And I've already found one, and it is 18. So I have got to switch all of these denominators to 18. Now my next step, remember, is to work with the numerator. So I have to ask myself, 9 times what gave me 18? Well, we know 9 times 2, so I have to do that to the top. 1 times 2 is 2. And this is going to be the same down here. 9 times 2 is 18. 1 times 2 is 2. Now, for this one, it's a little different. 6 times what gave me 18? 6 times 3. So now I have to do that to the top. 1 times 3 is 3. So now I have a simple problem. I simply rewrite it out. I keep my denominator. I add straight across the top. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 3. And we have 7/18 is my answer.